This week on the Inside Athletic Training Podcast, we sit down with Corey Tremble, the medical director for the Miami Marlins. Corey reflects on his first year in the role, shares his goals for the upcoming season, discusses offseason planning, and shares what he looks for when building a staff, and much more. Enjoy the show. All right, Corey, welcome back to the Inside Athletic Training Podcast. It's great to have you on again. I think this is your, third or fourth appearance on the show. Definitely the leader in the clubhouse. So always good to see you. I know you're going through a busy offseason right now. I want to touch base with you and chat through the season. Before we get started with the hard-hitting questions, share with our listeners your title, organization, and kind of a brief rundown of your experience in baseball.
Sure. Thanks again, Sam, for giving me this opportunity. You know, I love hopping on the podcast and speaking with you and trying to reach anybody that's looking for the inside information on sports medicine and baseball, and then even more so having the ability to have touch points with students that are looking for this as a career path. So entering into 2026 will be my 20th year in baseball. Currently the director of medical operations for the Miami Marlins, going into my second year there. Spent a year with the Texas Rangers as the minor league director of medical operations, and then the previous, whatever that math does, 18 years was with 17 years was with the Detroit Tigers. Different positions throughout their system, from a minor league athletic trainer to the minor league medical coordinator. So this has just been my path of baseball, and really excited to kind of share some of the newer experiences that I've had in 2025.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely chock full of experiences there that can be helpful to our listeners who are looking to break into the game. So, Corey, talk about your first full season in Miami. New organization, tons of new staff members, totally new position for you. What stood out the most to you about just a new experience of leading this group in Miami?
Sure. You know, I kind of made the analogy. It's when you hear a symphony all playing different notes at the same time as they're warming up, but they're not the same note. It's just like very chaotic, very noisy, very messy. And then the conductor kind of steps in and hits the stand, and everybody hits the G note at the same time. That's kind of how the first part of that analogy was a lot of the season. When we have so many new people coming in from all different departments, it wasn't just medical, it wasn't just strength conditioning, it wasn't just nutrition, it was baseball operations, it was scouting, it was every facet of the organization has had a major overhaul. And with that being said, you know, we didn't even know where the light switches were for the majority of spring training. So we were trying to learn as we went, and trying to learn each other as we went, because everybody was still so brand new, and everybody was just such a high caliber individual that we brought on from all different areas, that it created the ability to really just throw a ton of ideas around and really have a great space to innovate and to have this forward thinking, which are our pillars of the Marlins. So that part was really exciting, and we kind of knew this coming in, but it was definitely a challenge at times. It was messy at times, but once we got through the turbulence on the way up to cruising altitude, it really became a fun, really exciting environment for growth, for learning, for creating. And it's just been such a super impactful thing in my career to be a member of the Marlins now.
Mm-hmm. Definitely a learning curve, as we know, for anyone jumping into a new role in baseball. Well, Corey, you talked about the different departments that make up the organization. Just to name a few: scouting, player personnel, baseball ops, strength, nutrition. There's so much more than that in the organization in Miami. You've been a leader in this game for a while. Minor league coordinator role, you're leading, you're communicating with so many different people. What was different this year about, being in that leadership group at the big league level, communicating with scouting, with personnel, with the front office? Was it much different than your experiences, or did you have to change anything about your ways, how you communicate, how you manage to, work with those different groups across the organization?
For sure. You know, I think back to when I first started in baseball, and especially baseball leadership, whether it was at the minor league level or as I kind of progressed up the ranks. And the way I see myself as the leader I was in 2015 to the way I'm a leader in 2025 couldn't be any more different. You know,
Yeah.
I definitely led from a me and an I kind of standpoint early on in my career, and now it's a much more a we and what can us do kind of mentality. And I think that's one of the biggest growth pieces for me, at least going over the last decade in leadership, is just being able to understand that it's not all about you. It's not about you creating or about you communicating. It's about how do we do it as a group. And I think that was the mentality of not only myself, but others in other spaces in our organization, like strength and conditioning with Alex Ross, who was the director of strength and conditioning. And now it's moved on to Jeff Taylor, who's the director of strength and conditioning. It's just having that mentality of team first, of us and we. It's just created a much more stable environment for all of us. And it's allowed myself to take a step back and go, okay, I can really focus on the really small nuanced pieces because I know the team around me is doing such a phenomenal job and creating and doing what they need to do. So I think that's one of the biggest pieces, was understanding that to be a really good leader and to really create something that we're trying to create in Miami was to spread the responsibility out so that everybody had value, everybody could mature, everybody could grow, and it didn't always fall back on one individual to burn out and bear the burden of everything.
Sure. Yeah. There's the teams and the staffs are growing so much. You have to have, someone in leadership position who's able to delegate and get everyone involved. So it's cool to hear you talk about that. Well, Corey, as a medical director at the big league level, obviously a coveted position, but you're doing so many things. Do you find that you kind of miss the clinical aspect of what you used to do as an athletic trainer, as someone in this leadership role that's kind of, putting the chess pieces where they need to go?
Yes and no. To be honest with you, I always envisioned myself in this role because I just feel that this is such a important role, and it's so, for lack of a better term, ill-defined in baseball. Everybody knows what the head athletic trainer does. Everybody knows what the medical coordinator at the minor league level does. But the medical director is so nuance to the organization they're with. Some are former head athletic trainers that are just looking to move into a different role. Some are like myself that I'm not saying that I skipped, spots along the way, but it's not the traditional way of arriving in this location. Usually it's you move up from the minor leagues and you become an assistant athletic trainer, and then you become a head athletic trainer, and then you move into a medical director role. And that did not happen for me that way. There's times where I wish that it did. And then there's times that, I'm not sure I would have been very successful in some of those other roles. Not because I'm not confident in what I could do as an athletic trainer, but I'm not sure that really plays into my skill set. And then I look at our assistant athletic trainers and our head athletic trainer, and I think, wow, they are so much better at those jobs than I could ever do. That job, and seeing that it really does, if you're a great guitar player, you shouldn't try to be the drummer in the band, and that's kind of where that whole path has gone. And I do miss the hands-on aspect of athletic training, absolutely, because my role now is still player facing. I'm still seeing players every day. I'm still in the athletic training room every day, but I'm not treating players. But again, it goes back to during your career, and I'll say this to all of the students, where you think you are as a senior or a graduate student becoming an athletic trainer, where you think your career is going to go might pivot 8, 10, 12 times in the first decade of you being an athletic trainer. And that's okay. Nothing says that you can't pivot and look at a different path and understand that, hey, look, maybe this was my vision, but this is actually my path.
Sure. And to piggyback off that and dive deeper into your comment there about being around and being player facing, what does that look like for someone in your position across the league? So you're in the athletic training room, you're player facing, but you're not treating players. What is your role when you're in there? Is it communicating, just building relationships? What's that look like for you when you're in that atmosphere?
Sure. Well, the biggest piece for the role for me was really trying to instill a vision and a mission for the department. And The more that we thought about it, the Marlins pillars are innovation, forward thinking, and being a good teammate. Those are really great pillars, and those are our North Star. That's what we try to take to work every single day. It's more than just something that's on a t-shirt. This is what we believe is going to give us success. We have to innovate. We have to be on cutting edge things. We have to try things that other organizations don't want to try or are a little bit scared. We need to be thinking not just today, but we need to be thinking 3 to 5 years down the road and being a good teammate. And that's such a great last organizational pillar, because what does that mean? And it means a little bit more to everybody. It means something different to everybody. So we took those for our foundations in sports medicine, and we made sure that our foundational pillars really met, where our organizational pillars sat. So we went into it with a vision of trust, integrity, and player-centered approach. And we wanted to make sure that we were trusted, trusting, and trustworthy. We wanted to make sure that when we were talking about how we were going to go and do our work day to day, that we were going to have integrity, because the way you do anything is the way you do everything. And then we were always going to put the player in the middle of every discussion, every conversation, every decision, because that is what we're here for. So my role this year was really instilling that message of trust, integrity, and player-centered approach. And if we were able to do that, and I was able to support everybody in their version and their vision of those foundational pillars, then that was a success for me. So seeing our head athletic trainer have these players that they've never met before, and LJ meeting these players where they're at on day one and building relationships, and seeing Brad and Drew and Jose and Vic, the assistant athletic trainers, just have such high integrity and not cut corners, and know that the way that we're going to do all of the work on Monday is going to be the way that we bring our energy and our work on Tuesday. And seeing it from, my assistant director, Jessica Shepard, and seeing how the program that she created for the families, and that it was going to be player centered. If the player needed help from their spouse or their child, we were going to be there for them. So that's really, in a nutshell, my role was supporting and giving runway for everybody else to really just drive home this trust, integrity, player centered approach.
Yeah, that's great. And I want to, again, dive deeper on this question. You talked about success for you. I feel like you think you had a successful season, which is awesome. I know you set goals every year and want to achieve those. Success is the team. Marlins won 62 games in 24, 79 this year, chasing a wild card spot, even, in it to the end, basically. That is kind of how the organization measures success. Winning is the name of the game. We're playing to win. Sure. What was the atmosphere like this year? It had to be much improved. I'm sure everyone was excited about playing, in meaningful baseball games in September. How did that feel for you as a first-year guy coming in and seeing that turnaround?
Well, it was great because, you saw everybody else having those same kind of thought processes that we had in sports medicine across from the skill coaches to strength and conditioning, nutrition. Everybody was pulling from the same end of the rope, and we saw it on the field. We absolutely did better than I think most of the people out in the world thought, but I don't think we did better than what everybody in our clubhouse thought. I believe that we felt that we were a good team. We understood the payroll, and everybody was talking about that early on and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But again, you have to go out there and play. And with Clayton McCullough, our new manager, coming from such success in LA for all those years, we had winners around us, and the front office especially. I mean, they were the ones that really set this tone for us in the offseason. And from Peter Bendix and Gabe Kapler and Brian Chatton, these individuals said, "Hey, look, why not us? Why can't we do these things? Sure. If we are really leaning into being innovative and forward thinking and being a good teammate, if that's the recipe that all teams can utilize to win, why can't we be that team?" And just having the support from the front office to allow us to be innovative and be forward thinking and being good teammates, that's what allowed us to really have that. And the players felt it. And that's why I think they were able to get out there and do what they did.
Yeah, that's a great way to say it. I mean, at this level, there's so much talent. Every team has high end talent, so why not you guys? What's separating
Sure.
you from the next club? That's a great mindset there, leading into spring training. Not that I want to mention that to you already, but leading into next year, very very high expectations, I'm sure, for all you guys within the Marlins organization. And speaking of kind of that talent. I want to talk a bit about your staff. You've built a young staff, emerging talent, people who are, I'm sure, in the running for moving up to positions in your organization or in others. That's what happens if you guys win and you do a good job. There's going to be people moving around. When you were building your staff as a first year guy leading this group, what qualities were most important to you? When you look at Drew and Vic and Jose and all the guys there.
Sure.
What do you look for when hiring, and what do you look for when kind of promoting from minor league levels and upwards?
No doubt. So when we started assembling the staff, I felt like it was like either Audio Slave or the Traveling Wilburys, where it was just like this super group where we had this opportunity.
That's great.
and no other time, I think, in my career will we ever be able to do what we did this year. And it was to find individuals with a shared vision, but that looked through a different lens. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really important that because you hear about this in both development and playing and sports medicine, that it's this team's way or that team's way. And
yeah.
I think that's great. But when you have one certain way and everybody starts thinking the exact same way, well, nobody's really thinking at that point. So I think
Sure.
what was great about what we were able to accomplish this year coming in was to identifying individuals that didn't think the way I did or didn't think the way LJ thought, and brought them in so that we could have a discussion and we could have conflict in our conversations to figure out the best path forward, that maybe we weren't seeing things at that level. So I think that was the most exciting part for us, was just being able to have the freedom and have the support from our staff above us in our front office, that when we said, hey, look, this is who we're identifying. This is why we're identifying them. This individual has this individual has that. And that allowed us to really put this together. So now, what do we look for when we're bringing in new teammates, or what do we look for when we're promoting these teammates? Well, we want to make sure that we are molding the minor league athletic trainers to continue to be that, not be just a second version of LJ or a second version of Corey or a second version of Brad. We want to have somebody that can fit in to our major league staff and bring their own qualities to help with that vision. And then when we're looking for new teammates to come into our minor league system, we're looking for high energy, high motor type individuals that are really comfortable with failure and understand that failure is just the part of the journey of success, and knowing that you're going to have the support from myself and everybody else in the organization to try and to take calculated risk and do these things that other organizations may not be as comfortable with. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for individuals that want to train with aggression and not train scared, and they want to do things that they want to be able to bring ideas up and not feel scared to bring those ideas up. And that's what we're looking for.
Yeah. And I've talked with a lot of people in your position, the past couple of weeks about, positions that are opening. And the theme I've heard is a lot of medical directors and head athletic trainers when hiring are looking for young talent who are, number one, not afraid, number two, comfortable in uncomfortable situations. Yep. I know that's a little cliche, but very important. Was anything surprising to you when you saw your guys on your staff this year, be in these new situations, meeting new players, gaining trust with players, working in difficult situations? Did anyone surprise you in terms of you just stepping up and being great in those uncomfortable situations?
Sure. And I think it was a collective, right? Because I think we all have a little PTSD at times from former situations, former organizations, and just having that support from above that said, hey, look, guys, we totally understand X, Y, and Z happens. We're not blaming you. We're not pointing fingers. And it took a little while for us to, as a group, myself definitely included, to think like, is this real? Is this the way? And again, if all of a sudden we're a game out of the division, maybe stress levels ratchet up a little bit and things will change. But I do believe that the mindset and the culture that we have has been unbelievable. But the one thing that I will say, and I don't know if it's as much of becoming comfortable with an uncomfortable situation that really stepped up, but I mentioned it earlier. Our assistant director, Jessica Shepard, she put together a comprehensive family medical program. And historically, if a player's spouse or player's family member or a player's child is sick, they usually come into the head athletic trainer right around batting practice and say, "Hey, can you get my kid in to see the doctor?" Well, we decided that that was not fair to LJ and our staff that's working with our players every day. But more so, it wasn't fair to the healthcare of our players' family. That's not the best way of doing it. And a new mother doesn't look at me and say, "Oh, this person understands what I'm going through." But my assistant director, Jessica, she just had a baby, a beautiful baby boy, Paul, and she lives in Miami. And who better to help a spouse and a family navigate a new city and the healthcare there, but then an athletic trainer that's there that's just gone through all this. So that was one of those innovative things that doesn't plug in, it doesn't beep, it doesn't blink, but it was just such a great piece of sharing the bandwidth so that we can really move the needle for our players and staff without burdening people that shouldn't be.
Yeah, that's a great way to say it. I've never heard it explained that way. It doesn't plug in, doesn't beep, you don't see it, but it's hugely important. So that's that's great. And I'm sure, myself included, a lot of people don't realize that those are some of the projects that your staff is working on that are important to building that trust and knowing that you're empowering your players and you want to put them in the best position they can be to succeed. Well, Corey, with having a young staff, you've managed people as in the minor league coordinator role, which you're honored for by PBATS a number of times for your work in that role with the Tigers. Is managing, experienced staff like Brad and, Drew and all these guys who have been in the big leagues before, is it different? Did you have to change the way you operated, managing kind of people who do know what they're doing at a very high level?
Well, what was great about it, I don't know if I changed, but I didn't have to, not that I didn't have to do as much, but it was also reverse engineered at times where Drew and LJ and Brad and even Victor and Jose, who have leadership in their resume, it was great to hear their versions of things. And they weren't just there to treat athletes and just go home. No, they were going to be part of every conversation that we had as a group. And learning from them and seeing things from their aspect and their experiences was really an eye-opening thing for me because it helped shift the way I needed to possibly lead or how we as a group needed to move. So I think it made it easier because it allowed someone like myself to step back and listen and go, "Oh, wow, that's a really great idea. I didn't look at it that way. Thank you, LJ, for seeing it that way." And I think when you have a little bit more experience on your staff like that, it can provide a more cohesive team than just a leader standing up on top of the boulder that everyone's trying to push versus the leader that's like the first one involved trying to push it.
Sure. And on that note, in many team sports, you see, for example, like the Miami Heat, when LeBron James and Dwayne Wade team up with Chris Bosh back in the day, you see there's a lot of deferring going on. No one wants to jump in and be like the alpha dog right away. No one wants to, you want to be a pass first good teammate first.
Sure.
You want to set that tone and show that you're about the group. Same goes for athletic training, I assume. When you jump in, LJ is the leader in the athletic training room. He's the head athletic trainer, but you have so much talent around him and yourself included. Did you guys find early on in the year that there was some deferring going on, people sitting back when usually they would jump in because you want to show to Corey or to Brad or to anybody that you're a team first person?
No, absolutely. I think that was, and Gabe Kapler's really such a great example of this because he's such a unique individual. I'm sure a lot of people know who he is out there, but
of course.
He's quite the leader. I mean, as far as support goes and quote unquote, a boss. He's really unbelievable. Couldn't be happier to be guided by him and to get the support and the help and the advice that he's given me. And I think that was part of it, right? Because everybody was elevating to a new role. So I was elevating to a new role. LJ was elevating to a new role. Drew and Vic were coming into the big leagues. Hosey was coming back. So, where did he fit? So everybody had a little, I don't want to say imposter syndrome coming in to spring, but it was also like, hey, I need to show that my value in all this. And I think from Cap saying like, hey, look, everybody, we know you're good. We know you guys are going to make mistakes. We know we're going to have failures, but we're going to have way more successes. Just be who you are. And I think that was such a breath of fresh air that everybody, even when somebody got a little bit, too big for their britches and got a little bit too much ego, it was nice because somebody on the team would be like, hey, man, let's pull it back a little bit. And it was great, whether that was me, whether that was anybody else. So I think that's where the growth really happened for our staff, because everybody was so new. Everybody was trying to figure out their own path, but they realized, hey, look, the entire team is walking right alongside them on that path.
Let's pause for a quick message from our partners at the United States Department of Labor's Office of Disability Employment Policy.
All of us have a role to play in promoting a mental health friendly workplace.
So what can I do to help?
As a CEO, I can set the tone for a supportive culture.
As a manager, I can offer assistance and accommodations.
As a coworker, I can be a source of support.
As someone with a mental health condition, I can ask for what I need to perform my best.
What can I do?
What can I do?
I can remind others that none of us are alone.
And that we all benefit from workplaces that promote good mental health.
Learn more at whatcanyoudocampaign.org.
Now, here's more from our conversation with Corey Tremble. And a big part of that, Corey, is the culture you build, and that starts with you. You are someone who wants to build that culture, wants to lead. I know that's important to you. When you set out at the beginning of the year to build a certain type of culture in the sports medicine department, compare that to now, how the year finished. Did things go as planned? Did you have to adapt and change and meet the needs of your staff in a different way? How did you feel that your plans at the beginning of the year went, toward the end?
So we have such amazing minds in our staff, and to the point where I'm just, I'm trying to soak it in most of the time, and like checking the transcript just to figure out what exactly they're talking about. And I think when I came on board, the group that was here that remained and kept moving forward with us, there was a lot of clinician based athletic training. This is how we're going to progress. This is how we're going to test. And there was a lot of the medical science behind it, which is totally important and extremely important. And even I got caught up in thinking that was the path that we should start out on. And although that we did do great things in that area, the thing that it just hit me one day as we were moving in and talking with some of the major league staff that'd been around, it's, hey, look, at the end of the day, this is about relationships. If we don't have that as our guiding force, our North Star in what we want to accomplish this year, if we can't start relationships, it doesn't matter what we want to test. It doesn't matter what we want to do. It doesn't matter what innovation we want to put out to the players. If they don't trust us, if they don't feel like that if we don't have their back, then I don't feel that we're going to be able to get to where we need to get to. So I think that was like the big paradigm shift from spring training into the season, was realizing, oh, wait, even though we're doing a lot of new, it's still a people business. It's still athletes that have real lives that are trying to get out there and play a sport at the highest level with extreme failure baked into it. And we are supposed to be there. We are supposed to be the caregivers. We are supposed to be there to help them. And I think once that became more of our stronger voice in spring training into the season, that's when you started seeing a lot of the true innovation that we were trying to jump off with early on.
Yeah, and you talked about communication and the resources and just the buy-in for with that culture. I'm sure that rolls up to the top. And Gabe Kapler, who you mentioned, is just named the GM a couple
Yep.
of weeks ago, I believe. He played and has had a ton of success in this game. Really notable figure, very intense, like you mentioned. What is that? What is the importance of a relationship with someone in your position and Gabe Kapler? I'm sure there is so much instilling of confidence that he has in you and your staff to do the job. But talk about the importance of that relationship and how it can kind of give you the resources, the confidence to get your staff what they need, in turn to get the players what they need.
For sure. Well, and that was one of the big selling points to the organization from Cap and from Peter Bendix was, hey, look, if you're going to be the department chair, if you're going to be the head of the department, and we are going to hire you on as the resident expert in your field, then we're going to trust that if you have an idea, if you think that this is going to benefit our players to get them better, then we're going to do this. And a great example is, one of the pieces that we felt really empowered by was this idea of addressing the cardiac side of baseball. I think that we see that in football, and after the DeMar Hamlin incident, it became much more spotlighted. But in baseball, you just don't think about it as much. You don't think about the emergency care aspect of it. So one of the things was early on, we said, how can we leverage our pre-participation exam more than just the bare minimum or the requirements of Major League Baseball? And so we looked at it from the cardiac standpoint, and we made it a great partner of PBATS and Joe Rogowski at Athletic Heart. We had him come in with his team and his doctors, and we decided that if we are going to have a strong cardiac house, we were going to make sure that the electric and the plumbing and all of our players from the DSL all the way up to the major leagues had an echocardiogram and an electrocardiogram. So we did an echo and an EKG on every one of our players, and it awesome. Was. I believe, I'd love any of my colleagues to correct me on this, but I believe it was the first time that we at any club in baseball had done that scale. We did over 200 of each in spring training. And then on top of it, we brought in an EAP course to make sure that, hey, even if we don't catch something like that, we are definitely prepared, and we have the blueprint to mitigate any issue that happens out on the field. So between those three things, those were a lot of the support that we were given from our front office, and they basically just said, hey, yeah, if this is important to you, then it's important to us. And that was really reassuring for our staff that our crazy ideas were met with support.
Yeah, that's a great idea and very innovative. And obviously, you mentioned Joe Rogowski and Athletic Heart, who do a great job working with PBATS members often to take care of that stuff. But cool to hear you kind of going a different direction, challenging the norms, something you've always done as a leader. Well, Corey, you're in the off season right now, giving me some of your valuable time away from the facility, which I appreciate. As the off season, is fully underway for you, what does it look like for you day to day? Communication with staff members, with players, with front office. It's a different type or different part of your job than being in the facility complex every day. But walk us through kind of like the day to day for someone in your position.
Well, I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate, but communication has never been at a higher availability than it is right now. So whether it be text, whether it be Slack, whether it be Teams calls, Zoom calls, you name it, we have it. So there's a lot. We're hiring right now for a few positions for new teammates in athletic training and physical therapy. So we're trying to navigate that a little bit. We're shoring up some of our processes that we started during the season, that it's always difficult to really map out things during the season when the chaos is going on. So we're shoring up that, and just a lot of now we're moving into free agency. So there's a lot of players that are looking for jobs, and we're looking to sign players. So we're doing risk assessments on that. So there's just a big smattering of everything. But to my point earlier, which is really important, I because I saw it done differently at all my stops and from different, mentors of mine that when you share that responsibility, when you share that wealth, I don't know if I coined this phrase the other day at a meeting. I probably heard it somewhere, and I'm stealing it from somebody. So I promise to give them credit if anybody calls me out. But it's when we change the I to we, it creates a better me, and I think that really encompasses our off season right now on a microcosm type like view, but also if we're going to pull it back at 30,000 foot view, I think that's how we get work-life harmony. That's how we get team building and maturing. That's how we do a bunch of different things. When we all of a sudden create this environment where there is no more I and me, it's all about we, and that's what creates something special.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're making, in your mind, you're making notes about what you want to do differently in your second year. I mean, second year will be so much different, I'm sure, in terms of your attitude and, freedom to do more things and confidence as well. Like with anything, the more experience you get, the more risks you might take or the more, impact you want to have. Are you approaching the upcoming season and spring training differently than maybe you did last year? I know you jumped in the role as your first year, trying to figure out systems and, communication tools, all that stuff. But are you kind of freed up now and approaching this coming season a little differently?
Absolutely. And I think that that's important. And I think that that's where teams and staffs can kind of get lost and stale at times is that the one constant for the Marlins is change. That's going to be the one constant is we are going to change. We are going to pivot. We are going to try new things. We are going to accept failure as just part of the path to success. And because of that, if we're doing the same thing that we did in 25 and 26, then we have not done our job. So now there will be certain aspects that absolutely fall in line with kind of the way we did things, but everybody's one year more comfortable with each other. The physicians know us and they're not meeting us on physical day for the first time. So all of those pieces that were invitations and jumping off points in spring training of last year are now have much more comfortability to them now, right? And I think we can be more intentional in other aspects that we may not have been able to last year because, again, we had to figure out like, hey, where's the light switch in this room? Where do we put the tape in that room? So now with that being kind of put to the side, we can start diving into other aspects that I think all of us wanted to. We just didn't have the bandwidth, the time, or the availability to do. Yeah.
And kind of, again, looking back to getting into your first year, last spring training to now, was there anybody across the league, maybe it's PBATS alumni or, people you've worked so closely with at other stops in your career, anyone that you leaned on for advice, for guidance? I know that's something that's very important to PBATS members, that brotherhood and kind of staying together, that close bond. Any mentors of yours that you would go to kind of leading up to this role?
For sure. I have plenty of people I have to stand on their shoulders. So, that's one of the things about being a big guy. I got to make sure that I got plenty of people that can hold me up there. And, I talk to Jamie Reed all the time still. He's just been such an important piece to not only my recent career, but, my entire career, and all my mentors in Detroit, like, Kevin Rand and Doug Teeter, were still influential with me. But what was interesting was some of the newer people that I started connecting with more and more, and how the conversation wasn't as one-sided anymore. It was more just a conversation between two people that were having similar challenges, and like Brian Schulman and Nick Paparesta, these individuals that maybe weren't like when I was a first year coordinator, like I was looking at them going like, oh my goodness, these are unbelievable legends in the field. And to have the conversation with them. And now what was great was I didn't have to do it over the phone. When they came into town, I would stand there during batting practice and talk with Brian or talk with Nick and pass ideas back and forth and how they're doing things here and how they're doing things there. And
sure.
That's what has been really such a joy for me is seeing my athletic training friends more regularly and actually getting to take an hour because I don't have to run in and get a starting pitcher ready. Now, sometimes they do, which unfortunate, but just being able to have touch points with some of these individuals that I didn't always have touch points with and actually talking to them on the same level has been just great.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know that's something that's so important to PBATS members in the group is just staying in touch and even just chatting about stuff outside of the game is super important for you guys. Well, Corey, kind of to wrap up today, looking ahead, busy couple weeks with the winter meetings coming up. I know you're involved in so much from the EMR committee to a ton of projects we do here at PBATS, and your help is always greatly appreciated. Is there anything you are looking to refine or improve as the leader of the Miami Marlins Sports Medicine Department as you move into next year?
One of the things, and it's I promise this is not prompted, but for 19 years I've wanted to be part of a play campaign, and we finally did it this summer, and we had a great turnout. I mean, it was a really well attended turnout, and but at the time I didn't know a lot of the individuals on the community relations side of the club because that's business ops, and my touch points with business ops is few and far between. Yeah. But that really opened up a relationship to do some really great things. And so for 2026, one of the big pieces is going to be how do we make the play campaign even bigger? How do we make it more inclusive to the community? How do we start earlier in the planning phase so that we're really dialed in? We had great turnout from our players and from our staff. So that was, wonderful to see that, especially from the players. When you ask a player to just, hey, can you help us? And they don't ask like, what's in it for me? They just say, sure. Yeah, we got you. It's like an hour before you're even supposed to be here. That's fine. And we had, because our community is so diverse down in Miami. I mean, we had Spanish speaking players, we had American players, and reaching the students and meeting them where they were at, I felt was just a great experience for me, being my first one that I was able to be a part of. And that I think is going to be one of the big pieces moving forward for 26 and beyond is how do we make the play campaign and how do we make our initiatives for the community bigger, better, and stronger? Yeah,
that's a great point. And I know, I missed you this year down there. I'll definitely get there next year to see you, but it's kind of underrated in terms of the impact you guys can have as athletic trainers on the community. You can bring kids out to the stadium who have never even been to a game, let alone touching the grass. And when you see some of the kids' faces that get to shake a player's hands or grab a baseball and touch the dirt, take a piece of grass home and frame it, it's pretty cool, man. Just the allure of baseball. And you guys are in it every day. It's a grind. It's your job, and it's how you survive and take care of your family. So you oftentimes forget how cool it is for people to be in that stadium. So we appreciate all you do there. And Corey, thanks so much for your time today. I know you're a busy guy this offseason, but thank you again for your passion for athletic training, all you do for PBATS, and we look forward to seeing you in Orlando in just a few short weeks here.
Sounds great, Sam. Thanks again.
Thank you for listening to the Inside Athletic Training Podcast. For more information about PBATS and athletic training, visit pbats.com. See you next time.